we don't know why you and I really are talking. Ostensibly, it's to help you be a better coach and integrate the principles into your work. But really, we don't know. I mean, my interest is freedom, you know. And so freedom to me means freedom from certain ways of thinking, certain thoughts. And so I just wanted to share with you that there's a way that, and maybe I've said this before to you, but there's a way that in coaching and in the three principles too, there's a looking for results kind of a feeling or drive. And results in business or in life or in relationships is often connected to a doingness, you know. And I have found for myself that my grounding has gone much deeper by disentangling from thoughts of purpose and drive and what propels me forward. Now, I'm not saying that we sit around and we don't, I mean, the way that you are now perhaps can be sustained. Perhaps emails will need to be replied to in order for you to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get that. But there's something that you're feeling now that is its own reward. Like to bring even in the word purpose is too much. We don't know what our purpose is. Purpose arises moment to moment. It's only a feeling. And I share that because it's a tricky one. You know, when people take on a role, even as a three principles teacher, we all, and I have, you know, can get caught up in the doing and the how are we helping to change the world? What are we doing to change the world, to make it better? And we can overlook that this silence that you are experiencing, even without a major insight. You know, an insight implies some kind of information that will change your life. It can imply, it doesn't have to. And again, we're caught up in looking at how to change our lives or how life can change for the better, rather than falling deeper into this abyss of the unknown. And I love what you're saying about I'm not, the emails can wait, because it implies to me a shift in consciousness, you know, where the importance is not being placed on the future. The importance is being placed on this present moment, which is where everything is.
Mm.
It's so simple. It's the simplest thing. It's overlooked. It's just this simple fact of your being. What is it that is always here and does not come and go like a thought? When you have no thought about whether you understand innate health or don't understand innate health, whether it's a thought about which type of insight is best, whether it's a thought about anything at all, when you rest in the silence, there it is, this constant silent background. That's what we share, not owned. I think the mistake people make is when we learn that we can think negative thoughts, we learn that we can think egotistical thoughts, and we can be in these different states of mind, then we make the mistake of thinking that somehow within a negative state of mind, we're out of our health. People have said we're out of our health. But there's no way to be out of health, because health is those three principles: divine mind, divine thought, and divine consciousness, always creating, even when that creation appears to be negative. Where does personal thought come from? Where does the thought of a self come from? Comes from the divine principle of thought. So given that, everything is always being created by this unformed energy that always is. And that is health. So it's like what we're doing in life is, you know how they say watching the movie, and then we're backing up. The movie is still playing. It hasn't stopped. There are ups and downs and drama and terrible things and happy things and love stories, all still continuing throughout life. And yet our position has changed. And we see, oh, it's all coming from this light, this projector. And then we see, wait a second, I'm not even the one sitting in the audience. I am sitting within this light of the projector. And still the story continues. As long as we are in this body and we observe this world of form. You know how Sid said when a child is born, this is on a video, he becomes contaminated. And I remember thinking, now that's not nice. That doesn't that's a small innocent child, but I didn't get what he was saying, and now I get it. We become contaminated because we see this world of form and we start to believe in it. Oh, so when you are in an emotion, if you just stop within the emotion without trying to change it or calling it a negative state of mind or a personal state of mind, but if you just stop within it, it's being generated by some kind of thinking. When we stop and we fully become still within the emotion, allow the emotion to be there without judging it, without claiming it as ours, without making it a whole part of our self-help program or how it's not working. And we just stop within it. You know, the feeling will remain for a little while, but because we're not thinking anymore, we're just feeling it. The thoughts stop creating that emotion. So the emotion starts to die down. And we find in the core of it, because we've stopped in the middle of it, in the core of it is this well-being, is this health. Sometimes it'll go on for a few days. Sometimes it'll go on for a few weeks. And I think that has to do with a kind of thinking that we're in. And I don't begrudge that there may be hormones involved, or physical aspects of our feeling state from time to time. Mm-hmm. But from a spiritual, psychological perspective, then strictly, I would say that we have habitual thoughts that are a bit more, we're attached to, and a lot of them, well, all of them are attached to our identity. You know, they all are. So there may be even sometimes a period of sadness, which is a letting go. You know, it may feel like a sadness. We can't understand where it's coming from. There's no reason. And yet, on the other side of that sadness, we find a new freedom.
Mm.
You know?
So could it be that when we just, I remember you saying this really resonated for me, sit in the middle of that feeling. Just be with, when we are with that feeling, that in some way we are honoring the feeling and allowing it to be, and sometimes the feeling may be there for a reason. So almost giving it the space and the attention to do whatever it needs to do. Stay if it needs to stay, or go if it needs to go. So
that feels so freeing to me just to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Really, it's taking our own efforts at control out of the picture. Because that light is always shining, the projector light, consciousness, let's say, whatever you want to, I mean, we can get confused by the words, but this, I like how you say consciousness. It's you cannot deny that consciousness is always here. And so as the movie is playing, and as the movie may seem dark or tragic or frightening, the light is always shining. So I've been in a place where it's felt very either frightening or sad, you know, or a feeling of grieving. And yet there's that, I still feel the fire too, if that makes sense. Like, I know that fire is there, and so it's almost like it's the feeling of negative, or we call it a negative feeling. It's a kind of an energy. It's sort of almost mixed in with that light, you know, but the light is there. It's always there. So I'm walking around in a half and half space, you know, I'm feeling sad, but I'm not concerned. You know, it's like what Sid said about if we could just learn not to be afraid of our experience. Then it really is like sitting very comfortably, watching a movie, very comfortable, very assured that we're safe. And yet the movie plays, you know, with its scary scenes. And sometimes we get caught up a little bit, and I'm sitting here in this comfortable seat. And I came here to be entertained by all of this. Paid good money.
I want my money back.
I know. Too scary. I watched the wrong movie. I didn't pick this one. I actually become suspicious when I hear people sort of dismiss everything as thought. We know it's thought, but there's a way that we can be dismissive. And yet there's beauty in these emotions, because at the heart of all these emotions is love. It's a love of beingness. And we simply misinterpret. You know, we do have false thinking about that love, or on top of that love. You know, the love you have for your mother is something that cannot be taken away. And the love she's given you, just love, it's indestructible, eternal. And then we have a thought that maybe we wouldn't have it, or maybe, you know, and that creates all of this other stuff. But still, at the heart of it is this love, you know. And I think the more we have understanding, we don't cease having emotions, but the emotions are, we sort of understand where it's all coming from. And so we're able to tap into the heart of them, you know, the heart of them, which is divine in a sense. I mean, this is the game we're playing here, you know. I've heard beautiful stories. I mean, I had a friend, and this is something that helped me to trust Gangaji as a teacher. A friend of mine who I will not name, she's an older woman. She went through a very hard childhood. She was sexually molested by her father from the age of 3. And all these thoughts of damage and unworthiness and guilt that come from that kind of thing. I mean, all of that terrible poison of thinking. And somehow she was on the road up in Marin County where Gangaji used to live and speak a lot. And her car broke down. She was in the rain with her husband, and Gangaji pulled up in her car, just somehow miraculously, and said, "Do you need a ride?" And she said, "Yes." My friend said, "Yes, I need a ride." So I think they left her husband in the car so she could go get help and get a tow truck or whatever. And so she's in this car with Gangaji, and she starts telling the story of her whole childhood somehow. She knew it was Gangaji. She'd been a student of Gangaji, so she couldn't believe her good luck. And somehow she just started to talk, and she started to cry. And she was crying and talking and crying. And she looked at Gangaji, and Gangaji was crying. Mm. And I thought, yes, you know, yes, this is very sad. This is so unfortunate. And yet it's somehow okay. It's somehow we can go through these emotions without fear. Mm. Another story I heard about maybe it was a Buddhist monk or something. You know, there were a bunch of kids in the yard of the monastery, and some of the kids were trying to beat up this other kid to get his ice cream or something, and they were yelling and taunting him. And the monk ended up going out and buying everyone an ice cream to sort of create, you know, get rid of the situation. But as he told the story in a session at a workshop, he started to cry. You know, so I think, and you've heard, you know, I think some of the more grounded teachers will talk about their own feelings and that they do go through their own depressions and sadnesses, and Sydney Banks did, you know. He could be very angry, and he could be sad, and he could be down. It wasn't a problem for him to be human.